Good morning everyone and welcome back to Trev's Cooking on a Narrowboat. Well, I've brought you today a real old British classic. This is one for using leftovers. Now I know my American friends are not very big on using up leftovers. Well, this makes your leftovers into a different dish. Now we all quite often have our Sunday roast, roast beef, roast pork, roast chicken, whatever. And with that, we've possibly had mashed potatoes and cabbage. Well, if you're like me, you always cook far too much when you're cooking a roast dinner. So, what do you do with those leftovers? Well, this is what I'm going to do with those leftovers. I'm making bubble and squeak. Here's our ingredients for my bubble and squeak. Now this is a peasant food, and I believe there's records dating back to about 1680 or something. Might have been even earlier. Here's my little twist on it. I have here some bacon lardons, which we're going to put in the pan. Let's get the pan hot. So let's light the pan. Let's hope that's the pan getting nice and warm. So I'm going to cook this more of a traditional way. Now if you look at this up online, a lot of the more posh restaurants or whatever, people trying to make it a bit more upmarket, cook this in goose fat. Well, seeing as this was originally a peasant food, I'm pretty sure they weren't going to use goose fat. They would use what they had to hand. Lard and butter. So we're going to use lard and butter, but we're not going to put that in yet actually. We're going to start off with our lardons. We're going to start off by frying the bacon lardons off a little bit. Now this actually, because I'm always trying to cook on a budget, I went into Tesco's and they sell, it's basically bacon offcuts. They call it cooking bacon. Well, I took one piece of that which was quite thick, like so, and I diced it up into lardons. Make sure you leave the fat in, you need the fat for flavour. You see it bubbling up there a little bit, that's water actually coming out of the bacon. You want it to start to fry in a moment properly. So we're going to keep it on a high heat. Now bubble and squeak traditionally did have meat in it apparently. It used to quite often have beef in, because beef was left over from the Sunday roast. Of course, we also have our mashed potato and our cabbage. Now my cabbage, I also have a few green beans which I had left over. Now our bacon's starting to fry off there a little bit. Let's add some onions. I like to add onions to mine for a bit of flavour. Fry those off. I just diced up one medium small onion. Now a little bit from me to try and promote my channel. I come up with these recipes and sometimes it's difficult to think of something to cook. So I'd like you, the viewers, to come up with something for me to cook. To do this quite easily, become a member of the channel at any level and ask me to cook something. Obviously within reason, and don't forget we're on the British classic theme at the moment. So you ask it and I'll cook it. If you can't get hold of lardons or anything like that, use streaky bacon. Use smoked or unsmoked, doesn't matter, whichever you fancy. Now I'm going to start adding, I'm going to add my fats now. So then goes my lard and my butter. The butter is to make it a little bit extra caramelisy, a little bit crispier. Gives it a bit more colour. And the lard will stop the butter from burning. You could, of course, if you want to be a little bit more health conscious, use some olive oil. But this dish was never anything to do with being health conscious. It was to do with feeding you up and using leftover foods, which, well, today I don't like wasting food anyway, and certainly back in the day, food certainly would never have been wasted. I want that to, I'm going to start to brown off now. The onions now are just starting to take on some colour. I don't want to burn them. I do want them to have a little bit more colour than what they have at the moment. The bacon's doing its job. Now I'm going to start to add the other ingredients. I'm going to add the cabbage first. And if you want to know where the name Bubbling Squeak came from, apparently it's the noise it makes whilst cooking. And if you listen to that, you can sort of hear it sort of bubbling away, and the cabbage sort of squeaks a bit as it cooks. So mix that in with everything else. I've used Savoy cabbage here. You could, of course, use any cabbage. And make your mashed potatoes however you want to make your mashed potatoes. My mashed potatoes, I just dice some potatoes up and I actually left the skins on, and I added some butter with them when I mashed them. I didn't use cream or anything. I didn't want it too sloppy. Alright, that's starting to go in there now. I'm just going to dab this around a bit. It makes it easier to mix in. You can mix it all previous in a bowl, probably makes it easier. But I wanted to show you the ingredients as I added them, as they went in. So now get this mixed in. Sometimes this is known as a cake. I'm not quite sure why, but I guess it's the way you cook it. Mashed potato is always a nuisance to try and mix in. Because I made it with butter, of course it goes quite hard when it gets cold. You need to sort of warm it up again, make it more malleable. Then it starts sticking to your spoon, of course. Alright, I think we're sort of getting there now. I'm going to take this and just sort of flatten it down a little bit. This is where I guess the cake idea comes from. Then we're going to let it cook. I don't know if I said already, but I'm actually recording this with two cameras. I don't trust the GoPro. I'm just tucking the edges in here, because when I come to turn it over, hopefully that'll make it easier. It'll be more of a solid piece. I'm going to add a little pepper, because I like pepper on mine. I should have done this earlier actually, before when I was mixing it, but oh well. As you can see, I like pepper. Now I'm going to try and turn it over. Wish me luck. Now to try and slide it back onto the pan. Yeah, it's sticking to my chopping board. That's not working very well. Oh well. Never mind. Idea was there. Oh, too big a pan really. Making too much. Put a plate on the back of the stove there to warm up a little bit. Don't forget, become a channel member and choose the next recipe I cook. So there we have it, my version of Bubble and Squeak. I guess now we have to try it. By the way, this works extremely well if you have leftover Brussels sprouts. Just chop your Brussels sprouts up, works brilliantly. This is why it's called a cake, of course. You can chop it up like a cake. Well, I'm going to put some onto a plate. Some onto a plate like so. It's time to try it. Hot. A great way of using up leftovers, and that's going to make me a great lunch for today. The bacon, I'm dribbling. Bacon flavours all the way through it. Some lovely crispy bits here. Absolutely delicious. Who would think it? Some leftover vegetables. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and consider becoming a Patreon or a member, or make a PayPal donation to help me bring these cooking videos to you. Of course, I have to purchase the ingredients, and any little help would be absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for watching. Trevor out.